Good everyone. Been a bit of a busy day, and I had hoped to get online and have a quick Facebook Live with you earlier than of uh, our calls now with international world leaders tend to be at this time of night. So I just got off the phone actually a video call from a group called the Early Movers. It's a collection of countries who have taken a particular approach on COVID-19, and it's just a chance for us to share some of our insights, some of our experiences, some of the work on tech. And so the group includes the likes of Singapore, Australia, Denmark, Norway, Greece, Czech Republic, and has been convened in Israel. Of course, we've de-escalating, just bringing everyone with you while you're doing that, and so some real common ground there from shared experience of just trying to ease restrictions but keeping numbers low. New Zealand fares really well amongst that group. Most are easing restrictions while still having, anywhere between 10 to 50 cases being reported daily, which means that obviously our case profile, 0 cases now for several days, compares really, really well. And we are really well placed, and we're making good progress, and the easing of our restrictions is much more rapid as a bit of a My connection is very poor tonight, which has proven to be a struggle for me as I've done my calls with some of those leaders as well. Some of the issues that we were all really interested in learning from one another, though, that are coming into the market at the moment, they're not as accurate as some of the others tests. Aren't going to prove useful until we know that they have that level of accuracy that we need in order to use them at our border. Some of the other things discussed has been discussed are things like vaccine development and research. And this week, New Zealand released its vaccine, come out of the EU, called the ACT Accelerator. It's all about making sure that we are playing our role in international research and development, but also alongside that, we are preparing New Zealand manufacturing and research to not only look for manufacturing. So if you're interested, that was released this week as well by Minister Woods and the Deputy Minister Lee of Singapore. It's 1 year anniversary since we signed up to our Closer Economic Partnership that a year ago, and that feels like a very long time ago now, but it was a chance for us to catch up on some of the work we've been doing together through COVID-19, including New Zealand making sure that Singapore continues to access our produce. In particular, he mentioned they're now receiving New Zealand lamb, New Zealand pork, and that's making a big difference to them. On the flip side, we are accessing from them supplies for testing for COVID and other medical equipment. It's just an example of where those relationships have been really important to us through this period. Otherwise, it's been a busy week as we continue to track and report on some of our initiatives that we've put together for business in particular, small business in particular. So I reported today on Facebook, you might have seen, business loans having been processed. I think we were up to well over 90% of loan applications being processed now, predominantly to small business with interest-free loans. And that's just one of many support products that we've produced as a government to help as small businesses start their recovery. Some, of course, are still in a very difficult spot who aren't able to operate even at level 2. And so that's why things like the wage subsidy continue to be so important. So if you are directly financially impacted as a business or employer, or you know someone who is, please just pop onto my Facebook page. You'll see the links below to where people can find out all of the information around those support packages. So do want to just keep encouraging people to access them. We know it is going to be a very difficult period for the next few months, and we just want to make sure people know where that support is. I see a couple of comments coming through, some about the border. One question around international students. We haven't made any decisions there yet, but we are working on plans for working through a gradual reopening to certain individuals who currently aren't allowed to come into the country because we've had such a firm policy. But of course, there are those who are legally have a right to be here. They might, for instance, be a student with a student visa. We will continue to quarantine. It's been a very important part of our COVID management plan. It's worked really well for us so far. And even when we move to level 2, we will continue to quarantine as well. So just want to assure everyone of that. I see a few questions coming in about the Trans-Tasman bubble. Lots of people interested in when we might be opening up travel between New Zealand and Australia. It's something that we've been working really hard on. Today, had a conversation with one of the individuals from the private sector who's working alongside officials to try and get the border measures in place. While we're doing that work, that then gives us a bit of time to spend a bit more time at level 2, and likewise for Australia as they ease their restrictions, to check that we don't have any ongoing issues. Australia has had a few more cases over a period of weeks, but still very, very low numbers, so I'm absolutely on the right track. New Zealand, none for some days now, so we just want to make sure that we're both in the right spot where we can have travel between us without requiring quarantine, because that's the key. I doubt anyone would want to travel short periods of time if they're spending 2 weeks of their holiday in a hotel. So that's the whole point of getting that into good shape and really feeling reassured that we're ready to open. Just reading through some of your comments, I feel almost like it's virtually impossible for me to do one of these Facebook Lives without someone commenting that I'm looking a little bit tired. So I think I take only love and concern out of those comments. So thank you. I can promise you I feel I feel absolutely fine and really refreshed. But not refreshed enough that I can read these comments that are whizzing through as fast as I'm reading them. I'm seeing still, again, lots of feedback about that Trans-Tasman bubble. I see a question around different parts of Australia perhaps being ready. Yeah, there are parts of Australia who have been COVID-free for a long period of time, others less so. Ultimately, really for us, it's about having the go-ahead from a state by state. Then that's up to them. But in the meantime, we'll just make sure that we've got our house in order and that we're ready to go. Had a question there around migrant workers, and that is an issue that we've been very aware of for some time, particularly in some parts of the country where there is a larger number of migrant workers in areas like Queenstown, where there's been obviously significant job loss, particularly out of the tourism industry. We have emergency management teams on the ground. We're being able to provide direct support. So the really key message there is they do have the flexibility to help with fixed costs like accommodation. It's not just food and it's not just food parcels. So that help is there. If you know anyone who's in that support emergency management team in your region, they are funded to provide that support. In the meantime, we are working on a longer term solutions for some individuals who have been caught in those situations where they're legally able to work here but have lost jobs but haven't been able to access government support because of eligibility issues. I have a question there from someone around eligibility of coming into the country. Yes, if you are the partner, husband, wife, civil union partner of a New Zealander, yes, if you're travelling with them, you can travel into the country. Immigration New Zealand do suggest just notifying them ahead of time, just to make sure that eases your travel. But if you're travelling together, then that is an easier option. If you are not travelling together, you do need to contact Immigration New Zealand and just make sure that you've given that approval to come to travel in to the country. again, just some final questions about moving to level 1. So we're looking at our settings again on the 8th of June, and we've said that we expect no later than the 22nd of June we'll be in a position to move. So that should give everyone good level of confidence, having spent those two cycles of COVID cycles without, we hope, with low or no cases, that we're ready to move. And look, there's one thing that I've acknowledged. We have making sure that we're getting family members through. Then the next cohort that I really want to work on are people who do have their lives here. They might have homes here, they might have jobs here, who might have been caught outside of New Zealand's borders. We do need to focus on giving them the ability to come back in. In the meantime, we do have an exemption scheme. Very small numbers are coming in through that, though. We've had issues, though, where we've had infrastructure. From memory, in Wellington, we had the need to do repairs on critical infrastructure around sewage treatment. We needed offshore workers with specialist skills, a handful of those to come in. So that's we've had aviation specialists, just small numbers of people who have really key expertise that we've needed to come into the country. So there are those examples that hasn't stopped us from continuing to work on a bit of a plan to get, and who do have good, compassionate grounds for needing to come quickly as we can. So I should probably sign off while my connection continues to dip in and out. Thank you for your patience through all of that. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for always showing an interest in sharing your questions. Again, forgive me for my multitasking. I'll do the usual and just skim back through. I see a couple of themes that I wouldn't mind making sure I cover off next time, but I'll do that once I've gone through and read your questions. Otherwise, thank you for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and in anticipation of the weekend and the long weekend, make sure you get out and enjoy a little bit of New Zealand that you haven't been seen before. And please, if you're able to, acknowledging there's a lot of financial hardship out there at the moment, if you're able to, do buy, support, play, experience New Zealand made. Take care, everyone.